Three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Small Talk on the Mats. I'll go ahead and introduce my new guest here. My next guest is a medical school graduate, an ER doctor, born in the Philippines and moved to America when he was about a year old. He's lived in New Mexico pretty much his whole life, and he's the youngest of 7 siblings, which is pretty crazy. But he's persistently worked his way up in life, so he's a husband and a father of 2 little girls. So, ladies and gentlemen, you'll know more about him here shortly. I introduce to you Joe Pagador. How you doing, bro?
Doing real good, man. Happy to be here. Super excited.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to have you here. I want the audience to know more about your world. So,
For sure.
I categorize my questions so we stay on topic.
Okay.
So we're not jumping all over the place. So we'll go ahead and jump straight into it, man. First category here is your early life and family. Okay. So what was it like growing up in New Mexico as the youngest of 7 kids in an immigrant family?
It was pretty crazy. Well, looking back now, it's pretty crazy. At the time, it was like, oh, this is just life, right? When my mom and dad came, it was definitely a new thing for them, just as it was for all of us. It was just a culture shock, and I don't think that they were ready for what was kind of placed before them. So we hit a lot of financial challenges when we came, and having 9 people in the household, it was just chaos. But for me, it was a good time. I always had a good time.
Yeah.
There was a point where there was 9 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Oh, wow.
And do you ever hear that Dave Chappelle segment where he's talking about, like, his dad's telling him, "You're not poor. Poor is a mindset. You're broke."
Yeah.
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 And when I heard that, it resonated so much for me, because when we were in that 1-bedroom apartment, and there was 9 of us in there, I didn't feel like I was poor, because where we were in that part of the city, it was a very low-income neighborhood, and everyone in that community had kind of like the same socioeconomic status. So
yeah,
it was just like all my friends were the same, and it was fine. And there was a point where my sister, being the youngest of 7, she was already an adult, taking care of, her own family. She deemed it appropriate to take myself and my brother, who was like the closest in age to me, kind of with her in a different part of the city that was really nice. And she was like, let's take you out of there. And she essentially, raised us for a good portion of our childhood.
Okay.
And although I'm very grateful for what she did, at that time, that's when I felt poor.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then I was like, now I'm in this section of the city where I know people have more than me.
Yeah.
I was happy, it was at the time, like I was like in a good part of the town. And now in retrospect, I know, like, I didn't have the same kind of influences that I had in that other part of the city.
Gotcha.
And I was kind of disappointed with that transition.
Yeah.
But, just changes like that, just a lot of like rocky things, changing environments, seeing some crazy things that would happen in the household that just are very common, and unfortunately in low economics, low income housing, drugs and, things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So how did your parents' jobs, like your dad is a blackjack dealer, you mentioned, and your mom is a CNA, shape the way you viewed work and success?
So it's interesting. When I think about like what my parents did and where I am now, a lot of people always ask me, like, how did you get to where you are now? Mm-hmm. Like, you talk to some of my colleagues, and like, oh yeah, my mom's a doc, or my dad's a doc. I have family, like, I have no doctors in the family. I'm the first. I was one of the first to graduate college, let alone become a doctor in my family. So,
wow.
I think the thing that allowed me to get to where I am in terms of what my parents were their persistence in their jobs. They're very diligent and very devoted.
Okay.
I think one of the things that both my parents had were just discipline. It was like you go to work no matter what. Like it wasn't so much what they did, it's how they did it, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, my dad was a blackjack dealer, my mom was a CNA, and it wasn't so much like, oh man, my dad's a blackjack dealer, I'm going to go into the casino, or my mom was a CNA, I'm going to go into medicine. It wasn't either of those things. It was just the day-to-day thing. Like, no matter the circumstances, my mom and dad would always go to work.
Yeah.
Like, and it's to this day been one of the things that I feel has contributed to my success is being diligent and just very disciplined. My wife always tells me, like, how come you just don't call in?
Yeah.
She's like, you look like, oh, or I'll be like sick, and I'm like, honey, I'm not that sick. She's like, you look horrible, and I'm like, I'm not that sick. I'm just gonna go to work, and sometimes it's in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, I probably should have called in. But yeah, I think that is the biggest thing in terms of how it molded me to going to where I'm at, but not so much what they did.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's important for a child is to see the work discipline and the work ethic up there coming up. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's good. So looking back, do you think being the youngest influenced your ambition or personality?
Influenced my ambition and personality. Definitely. So and personality is definitely something that was shaped by being the youngest, because I got to see so many growing up.
Yeah.
So I knew all of my sisters and brothers my whole life, right? Whereas like my brothers and sisters, they had transitions in how many siblings they had. I had 4 sisters and 2 brothers. So from the get-go, I was like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
You have some people that are good at this. You have a sister that's good at this. My brother's really motivated about this. My brother's doesn't hate this. And as I'm growing and I'm seeing all these things, and I'm like, what's right? What's wrong? What's fun? What's not? It definitely shaped my personality. My family, they always talk about like, oh, you, Jackie, Janice, you guys are all the same, and then you are all the same. And I think it's just categories of these personalities. Like, oh, you guys are always like so crazy, fun, life of the party. You guys are the dancers. You guys are the singers and whatever.
Yeah.
Because myself and my 2 sisters were all about dancing, and my brother he was all about singing, and it was cool.
Yeah.
It was
Okay.
cool. I loved growing up in that environment where there's just so many personalities, and
Yeah.
definitely contributed to my personality.
Yeah. Okay. That's exciting to hear, man. All right. So the next topic is struggles and finding direction. So you've been really open on that bio that you sent me about failing out, quote unquote, of community college the first time.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think was missing in terms of guidance or support back then?
Yeah. I had mentioned that I didn't really have any guidance when I graduated from high school. Well, even in high school, it was like, all right, so this is just what you do, because all my peers are in classes, and then everyone's talking about college, so that's just the thing to do.
Yeah.
Not even so much like what to expect, what to do, what to look for. So and I think that's a big thing for a lot of people, right, who go to college.
Right.
You go from like having a schedule handed to you to, okay, what do you want your schedule to be?
Yeah.
And when I was asked that, I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
I'm in semester 1, you're supposed to tell me, and I just go to class. And I was like, what do you mean you don't take attendance? What do you mean I don't have to be here right now? And I think that freedom and that lack of guidance was a plus and a minus.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. So the minus was I just didn't do well in college. I failed. I didn't really grasp the significance of college,
Yeah.
And the plus side was it allowed me to really fall on my face and learn some very important lessons.
Yeah.
Like you don't always have a cushion. It's time to grow up, and I hit some hard times, and I was like, okay, cool. here's some lessons. I need to get up and go. My parents, they just said, go to school. There wasn't a like, you should do this, you should do that. Minus the little stereotype of Filipinos, like, oh, you're going to be a nurse, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you come over here, you be a nurse. So my sister's a nurse, you know?
Okay.
And there was always that mention kind of in the background, like, why don't you just come be a nurse?
Yeah.
And for me, there wasn't a lot of the why outside of like, it's good money, just go be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was like, I'm in no way interested in that at all. And I think it would have been interested at the time, at that moment, if I was given more guidance on the why. Like,
Gotcha.
What's the role? How meaningful is it? What is it? What do you do? And for me, I was like, well, I'm kind of good with math, so I'm just gonna take some math classes. I'm gonna do this. And then I just got caught up in life. I was young. I was dumb. I was working. I decided to go work. And when I realized, you know, you come out of high school and you start making money, and you're like, I'm making good money.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go work, and I'm gonna go actually grab another job because I can make even more money.
Yeah.
Oh, I can work. I wound up working like 3 jobs simultaneously, like nonstop. Whenever I would let go of a job, I'd pick up another job, and it was always just like multiple jobs at the same time, while I was trying to just juggle figuring out what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do.
Gotcha.
And I wound up just letting go of classes, but then I had a lot of pressure to like stay in school, quote unquote, stay in school.
Yep.
You know, everyone always says like, stay in school, without asking like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't doing well. I was getting D's, F's, C's. And in retrospect, if someone had asked me like, how are you doing and what challenges are you facing, I think it would have been, I guess what I'm trying to say is the advice I would have given myself at that time would be like, just stop school, because the more D's and F's you finalize on your transcript, the worse it's going to be. And I didn't know at the time. I was like, well, I could always just retake that test. I could always just retake that class. But in retrospect, your transcript is probably one of the only things that follows you for life.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I kudos to you, man, because I'll ask a few more questions about school and stuff, but the reason I say kudos is because a lot of college dropouts don't go back to school, right?
Yeah.
I'm one of them myself. Like I dropped out twice.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
okay.
I mean, like, props to you, man, because that's dedication right there, especially where you're at in life right now. So.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm just grateful to have had the influence that allowed me to get here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, man. Cool. So when you were working a bunch of those odd jobs like pizza delivery, retail, go-go dancing, did you ever imagine where you'd end up today?
No, not at all. So, like you had alluded to, I was delivering pizzas for Pizza Hut, just some odd job that one of my friends got me. He's like, I deliver pizzas. I was like, man, that's easy money. Let's go. I was driving a Civic at that time, and I was like, man, this is good on gas. I'm getting cash on cash. I was like, this is easy.
Yeah.
And like you said, I was working as a go-go dancer at that time, which is when I met my wife, and that was cash too, because I was getting paid tips.
Yeah.
And that was, and that was easy money, and it was just on the weekends. I'd work like, I don't know, 3-4 hours on Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
And I was like, man, that's easy money. And I would as a go-go dancer, you would just be on the box dancing, and then the club owners would just pay you every 2 weeks. And I was like, man, this is easy. I'm like paying my rent, I'm paying my bills, and I could do this forever, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like delivering pizzas, maybe like 20 hours a week, go-go dancing for like 4 hours a night, Fridays and Saturdays. I'm like, I'm not even at full time. So I'm like, I'm going to go work at the mall and pick up a job here. And I was still, you know, just having fun. I was into breakdancing at that time. So me and the crew would spend the rest of the hours just dancing and practicing. And I was like, man, this is my life. This is it.
Yeah.
I'm done. Let's just keep going. And it was never a thought of like, okay, what's the next step? and what's my goal? Where do I see myself in 5 and 10 years? And I don't know why I didn't ask myself that until much later. I would think I was just caught up in the euphoria of, oh man, I'm young.
Yeah.
I've got money. I got friends, whatever. And it was just
Right. I think a lot of us young ones do that. Like at a younger age. I think
Yeah.
we don't think about the long term future.
And I think it's appropriate. And I think hopefully I can impart some of this, I don't know if I'd call it wisdom versus just, life experience onto my daughters and let them know, like, it's okay. It's okay to make some mistakes and just make sure you know where you are.
Yeah.
But utilize that time to figure things out. And I'm asked sometimes, like, would you have changed those times? Sometimes, and I always tell people, like, no, because every moment in that transition helped me become who I am today. And
Exactly.
I'm super grateful for that.
Exactly. Yep. That's a great way to put it. All right, cool. So we'll jump into this next one. You just briefly mentioned it. Can you tell the story of meeting your wife while working in the nightclub scene?
Yeah. So it's always a fun story. It's always a fun memory to think about whenever I'm asked that. So I got this job working at this club called OPM. OPM, the idea was like zero. You know, you have 8 a.m., 6 p.m., and then like OPM is supposed to be like 0 p.m., like midnight. So that's the idea.
Okay.
So that was the club. Anyways, we would go, myself and my friends would go there and dance on a Thursday, which was like some like KGB theme night. And, we were break dancers at the time. And really the only spot to really find room to break dance would be on this riser. It was like this 4x2 box. And I was like, man, I'm going to get on that box and just jam
Yeah.
as soon as like Michael Jackson comes on or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would get up on that box, and then it was within view of the VIP section, because the VIP section was like on the second floor.
Okay.
It was like a loft. And I would get up on that box and I would just like rip for like 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is my jam. And everyone was just like, like, yo, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And the manager came down and he pulled me off the box, and I was like, oh shoot, I'm in trouble. So I'm like, man, he's just pulling me off the box. I guess we're getting kicked out. But then he goes, hey, you want to work here? And I was just like, what are you talking about, work here? What does this entail? He's like, just do that on Fridays and Saturdays.
Nice.
And I was like, sick. So that's how I got the job working there, right? And I was like, this is a good time. So I was doing that. And then the manager, the guy who hired me, his girlfriend at the time was on this like semi-pro basketball team. And my now wife was on that same dance team. And there were other go-go dancers that were working with her, obviously. And we needed stand-ins because I guess there was like 2 or 3 of them that called out. And then my wife had been asked to come stand in for one of them. So I was warming up, right? And I was like stretching up on the loft part in the VIP. It was only like 9:30, right?
Yeah.
So she comes in all happy. And she was young. She was only like 18 at the time. I was like, dang, who's that? So I look down there, and she's like warming up, quote unquote, and she's like dancing on the box. There's like no one in the club yet. She's just having a blast. And I'm like, who's that on my box? Get off. Trying to steal the show.
Yeah.
In my mind, I'm like, dang, she's good. She's just killing it up there. And I get up there, and I was just like, she probably doesn't know what's up, but like, this is my box. So I get up on like the adjacent box, and I blow it up, and she's just blowing it up. And then the clubs like finally like jump in, and then we like take a break, and she's all happy, go like, hi, how are you, and whatever. And then it's funny because when after we had known each other for a long time and had already well, let me take a step back. So that's how we met, and we got close. We spent a lot of time together. We obviously saw each other every weekend. Then we would hang out outside of work, and then it just like developed right. Organically, which was nice because it was just like an organic growth. But after us having known each other for a long time, she was like, I thought you were gay when I first met you. And I was like, cool. Tell me about that. She's like, well, you don't hear about a guy go-go dancer downtown. And I was like, okay. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, anyone else, any like guy dancer downtown, like go-go dancer, like I really was the only straight go-go dancer. And I was just like, that's so funny. And I think that was one of the components to us getting so close together, because she was so comfortable,
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, she's just so cool. But that's how we met. We met just through that, and then we were both really serious about dancing. Like she was big on like hip hop, I was big on like break dancing, and then we would just do like just some dance stuff on the side. We would like teach dance on the side, and it was just a good time. And then we just kind of grew out of that scene, and we're here now. We're still together. A lot of our friends from that time frame were like, whoa, you guys are still together from working at the club. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. We had a lot of things in common. We just meshed well. We kind of transitioned out of the nightclub and dance club scene into other jobs. We both worked at Wells Fargo. We both worked as waiters and waitresses. She was a waitress and I was a waiter. And we just kind of like had a lot of similar experiences. And because we transitioned into these different roles and grew together, we were able to really build a strong relationship because we had a lot of similar experiences.
That's awesome.
And then challenges together, and we were like, man, this is cool. And thankfully we've only grown from there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like, oh man, you guys just met in the club, and then you sober up and realize like, oh, we don't work out. And really, actually, we worked really well. We had a lot of chemistry. It was cool.
That's awesome. What a great story. All right, so we'll jump into pivotal shifts. So what was the aha moment, like when you realized you wanted to leave the dance scene, the odd jobs, all that stuff, and try something different?
That's a good question. I still sometimes try to figure out like when that pivot was, because it was such a crazy pivot, right?
Yeah.
We had, like I had talked about, we had worked a bunch of different jobs. I think one of the big things were we had talked about where we wanted to be, and I think that was one of the first times we had, or at least I had, thought about like what is our life going to look like in 5 years. And I think that was the biggest motivator. It wasn't so much like what is my life, what is our life. And then when we started talking about that, it was kind of like, okay, I'm thinking we should try something else.
Yeah.
We had gone to LA, done the whole like dance scene. We went to So You Think You Could Dance. That was a good time. We came back. We still worked a bunch of different jobs. And then we had talked about like, okay, so, we're going into our mid-20s. What do we want to do? We were talking about like starting to have kids maybe. And I think that was the pivot for me. And I was like, whoa, like, I think if we're having thoughts about kids, I should really think about like where we should be professionally,
Right.
And for whatever reason, I was like, we should get a grown-up job. And I don't know how I came up with the conclusion, but I was like, the guys that work at the bank, they look pretty grown up. They wear ties and stuff.
Yeah.
So I got a job at Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
It was just some entry-level job. Like, you just apply online. They don't even... I don't know. I guess it was an assumption that I had. I was like, man, those guys have to, like, go to college, go to this, to work at the bank. And I just filled out a form, and I was hired, like, literally that week. And they put me through training to become a teller. And I was like, that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And she did the same thing. She started as a teller. And I was like, oh, cool. We're doing this. And I felt very... quote professional. I was putting on a tie every day. Went by the book. I read a bunch, probably way more than I needed to for that particular job, but it was helpful because in that corporation, they were very much a retail bank, and people don't understand what that means when they say retail bank. People are like, what do you mean a retail bank? Like, they sell you things. they sell you products. They sell you checking accounts, saving accounts, cards, and all these things. And if you knew those things, or at least sold very well, you can transition to other roles, and that transition to other salaries, higher salaries, right?
Right.
So within a time frame of like 4 years, I had like 5 different roles. I had promoted like 5 different times
Nice.
in the bank. I was a teller, then a customer service and sales representative, then I was a personal banker, then I was a business banker. Yeah, and it was just like a quick move. I guess it was 4, but I found myself promoting quickly, and then towards like the end of that transition, I was like, okay, now where am I, and am I happy with where I'm going?
Mm.
You know, and I was like, that's when I was like, okay, my financial situation is much better, and I think I can take a step back and say, okay, if I'm comfortable with this, we just keep going. If not, then I need to pivot. And for whatever reason, I had like an epiphany. I was like, I do not want to be in my boss's shoes in like 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I told Felicia, I was like, I want to go back to school. And I don't know for what, but I just want to get out.
Mm.
Thankfully, we were, like I said, in a better situation. So I was like, I'm going to take an EMT class, because one of my breakdancing colleagues, he was a paramedic.
Yeah.
And we would get together and practice sometimes while I was still working at the bank, and I would tell him stories about work. He would talk about work, and I was like, man, your job's way better than mine. I'm talking about like checks and balances, and you're talking about like resuscitating someone. So he's like, yeah, man, just go take a class, EMT. It's only a semester. And I was like, all right, I'll do that. And then I think that's what kickstarted the direction to where I'm at now.
Okay.
And I think that was super helpful. I'm glad I had that whole experience. And I think that moment there wasn't there when I was in college the first time around, because of the money issue.
Okay.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. Like, you don't have a lot of chance to thrive if your focus is to survive.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome, man. So working at Wells Fargo seemed like a big shift from dancing and retail, obviously. So you kind of threw some pointers in there, but what did you learn from being in banking that actually stuck with you moving forward in life?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Working in banking. So a few different things I would say. One of the things that I always share with some of my mentees that I learned from banking, which is more of like a what not to do, for me was I didn't like the whole 9-to-5 gig.
Okay.
I knew, having worked in the banking industry, like I wasn't a 9-to-5 guy, which was helpful when I went to med school, because then I knew like what kind of specialty I wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I definitely learned that has stuck with me, because I was like, I'm not a 9-to-5 guy. I'm not a Monday through Friday guy.
Gotcha.
But one of the bigger things was finances. And it's not because of what I learned in my, I guess, training as a banker or a teller, but more so what I saw.
Okay.
Right? When I would service customers and I would see people in really bad financial situations and stress, and I was like, man, these people. So when I was working as a personal banker, I would see people that were, that would extend themselves into debt. And, I had the privilege of talking about, their experiences, how they got there while they were sitting in the office or something. I'd be like, hey man, how'd you get here? Or what do you think happened? Or how can I help you? And then they would just spill it, right? Because they were in there. I was their banker, quote unquote. And I'm like, oh, this is what's happened. This is everything. And I learned that extending yourself in debt, particularly certain types of debt, was very dangerous. And I think that's definitely something that has stuck with me. And learning what are, quote unquote, good and bad types of debt. And that's definitely been something that has stuck with me since then.
Yeah.
And then seeing people in like their own businesses, because I was a business banker, and I would see a lot of businesses that come into the office and some of the challenges that were experienced in the clients that I would service. I was like, man, that's hard. Just seeing those types of things, knowing that debt is definitely a tool, right? Whereas a lot of the people saw it as like a, I guess just a privilege that was just overextended.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. That's a good way to
That's one of the
interpret
big things that I took away from that.
Okay. Important lessons, though.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. So, and then you're kind of like touching on these questions ahead of time, but so what drew you to the EMT work, and how did that role spark your interest in actual medicine?
Yeah. It's like I've read your questions or something. No, so yeah, it's just like I had mentioned earlier. One of my buddies was a paramedic, and when he was talking about working in like this rural town and having to resuscitate someone that was unconscious, I was like, man, that sounds like a blast. And I was like, how do you even know what to do? He's like, yeah, you just learn it. Yeah. And he was so nonchalant, right? He was just one of those just brilliant guys.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, you just do this. And I was just like, I want to be that guy. I want to be able to just go into a scene and be like, oh yeah, this is what's up. So when I took my first EMT basic class, I was just so surprised with how much knowledge you get in that one semester, and the types of things that you're able to do as a EMT. I was like, man, you're able to do that as an EMT for whatever reason. And, in retrospect, you're like, okay, that's really basic, because your first class is an EMT basic.
Yeah.
But really, you could do a lot, really save lives.
Yeah.
Just that basic training. And I was like, man, this is so cool. You can like literally save lives, right? And that's what I was meaning. That's what I was alluding to earlier. And I was like, if someone had talked about becoming a nurse and saving lives, I would have been much more interested, right?
Yeah.
Like, and when my friend had talked to me about being an EMT, I was like, man, this is so cool. Like, just the idea of being to impact someone in the worst part of their life and like their emergencies, and then really bringing them back from the depths of a tragedy. Like, that's so cool. So when I took my first EMT class, I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. Now, during that time, I was working as a business banker. It would have been a very hard transition, salary-wise, to go directly from becoming a business banker at Wells Fargo to an EMT basic, right, in terms of income. So I told my wife, I was like, I want to eventually just leave, because this, I hate, no, I don't want, hate's a strong word, but I just disliked the office job, and I felt like I was digging myself in a deep hole that I couldn't get out of. I was like, man, I'm getting pretty deep in this quote career in the financial business. So how do I do this? So we had to figure out how to transition out of some obligations, get our finances right. That way I can leave that job and then go work for Albuquerque Ambulance. And then it was a funny thing, because I had applied to Albuquerque Ambulance.
Yeah.
And then it was like towards the end of one of my shifts at the bank, and then an EMT comes in. He's like, hey, can you help me with my account? I'm like, absolutely, come into my office. Let's get you squared away. For whatever reason, I was in the best mood that day. He's like, what else can I do for you? Da, 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 da. And then we go into what he does. He's like, oh, I'm actually a manager at Albuquerque Ambulance.
Yeah.
And then he was like, you know what? He had told me that he was a manager, and I was like, that's so funny, because I just applied there like 2 weeks ago. He's like, you did? And then he looked at my name, and then he picks up the phone. He goes and he calls. He makes a phone call while he's in my office. He's like, yeah, Joe Pagador? Can you pull his app? And then they're like, yeah. He's like, yeah, go and hire him. Like,
wow.
It was so serendipitous. I was just like, what? He's like, yeah, you're hired. It was so crazy. It was just like meant to be.
Yeah, for sure.
It was like a long time. It was, I would say, almost a year from me finishing my EMT basic class to that point, because I was like still unsure. I was like, how am I going to make this work? And we were finally like, okay, I applied, and then I just had that random shift. I helped this guy, and I didn't know who he was, and then he happened to be like high up at Albuquerque Ambulance, and he was like, you're hired, dude.
That's amazing.
So I go home and I tell police, I'm like, I'm leaving. Put in my 2 weeks, because I just got hired.
That's crazy.
And then it just sparked from there. I started working there, and after working there as an EMT, I was able to work and see like a lot of medicine. I got to see the hospital, the emergency department, all these different facilities, and I was like, yep, this is what I want to do. So I went back to school.
That's awesome, man. So that's a way to. It's amazing how that worked. Like
It was crazy.
Perfect. All right, so let's jump into your journey of becoming a doctor.
Okay.
So restarting college after an early failure is a huge leap. Obviously, we've talked on a few of those things. So what changed your mindset the second time around?
Mindset is everything. You put it all. I mean, the answer is all in the question there. It's all mindset. So, I think I talked about that earlier. But when I first went to college, I just didn't have any guidance. I didn't know what I was doing. Now that I had something that I was very interested in and eventually turned into a passion, I was like, man, this is so cool. Medicine is so cool. How you can just bring someone back to life, learning like these different medicines that you can give, different maneuvers you could do. I decided to go back, and I went to CNM, which is our community college.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take some basic classes. Took my EMT intermediate. I did well. And then I was at my sister's house, the sister that I had talked about who helped take care of us when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, I think I'm going to go back to school, And at that time, my other sister was already a nurse. And I told her, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go back to school and maybe work to become a paramedic or a nurse. And after I said that, she told me one of the most outrageous things. At least I thought it was outrageous at the time. She goes, why don't you just become a doctor?
Mm.
And I just looked at her with the most disgusted or like confused face. I was just like, what? What are you talking about? That's such a foolish statement. In my mind, I was thinking like, we're immigrants, right? Like, I'm Filipino. I'm a first generation. I've already failed out. Like, it all rapidly like spun in my head. I was like, why would you even say that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But she said it with such conviction and such certainty. Like it was like a no-brainer for her. She's like, why don't you just become a doctor?
Yeah.
And then just the fact that she had so much confidence in that statement, it wasn't even a joke to her. She's just like, why don't you become a doctor? Like, she had 100% confidence, knowing that I failed in my my first go around at college.
Yeah.
It just sparked something. I was like, how can she have so much confidence in me? And I thought about it, and I said, you know what? I like medicine. I didn't really give a full faith effort in college. So what I did was I was like, you know what? I'm going to challenge that idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and do a full semester. And I went back and I took calculus, biology, physics, and chemistry. Very like heavy content classes all in one semester. And I said, if I can knock this out of the park while working full time, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. That's
so I did it, and then I got A's in all my classes in calculus and these 3 science classes while working full time. And then, my sister was obviously like in anticipation of how I did that semester. She's like, so how'd you do? I was like, I got all A's. She's like, well, get it done then.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, she was, and then from there I was just like, man, it was just crazy. And to this day, it's like I still talk about her,
Yeah.
She's not it's not a part of the question, but unfortunately she's not with us anymore. But
Yeah.
I pray to her all the time, and about how thankful I am for how that kind of pivoted my course.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. This is an amazing story, dude.
Thanks, man.
So, were there moments during med school or residency when you thought, maybe I can't do this, or you had any doubts? And if you did, how did you push through that?
Oh, man. So, med school was hard for sure. And it wasn't hard in the way that a lot of people think, at least for me. Having been a non-traditional student, so let me preface this with, when I went back to college, I was already 25, right? I had about like 7 years of being an adult under my belt before I went back to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I already had like a rhythm. I already knew kind of the workforce. So 7 years of like working all these odd jobs and industries,
Mm-hmm.
and I was already in a relationship. So by the time I finished my undergrad and I had gone into med school, I already had a rhythm in, and I think the hard part wasn't so much like, is this going to be too hard for me? It was more so like, I've dove into this. I need to make sure I'm making the right decision. I did well in med school, thankfully, with the support of my wife. We stayed in a studio, like it was a 400 square foot studio.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was born a month before I started med school.
Okay.
So my wife definitely was a big component of my success, because she was able to, maintain our household, our family in that 400 square foot apartment
Mm-hmm.
studio, while I focused on school. And because of that, the academic part wasn't so hard, but it was so much more the mental load of like, I have a family now and like, I have to do good.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges that a lot of med students are faced with is figuring out what they want to do for the rest of their life in that 4 years. It's no longer like I'll test this out. I was like, they want you to figure it out in 4 years. And it's a pretty big commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are vested, not because you're spending 4 years, but you're committed to that medical school debt as well.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, okay, I need to make sure, one, I have a specialty that is going to be accommodating to my life, accommodating to my wife, my kids, and something that is just flexible enough to maintain the goals and the values that my wife and I have.
Okay. Yeah.
So there were moments where I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this specialty. I don't know if I want to do that specialty. And I think that was more so the challenge than it was like the academic portion.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to hear these things. So, let's see, what question are we on? Okay, here we go. How did your past experiences with the odd jobs, the banking, the dancing, help you connect with patients differently in the ER?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. So working, I think a lot of my experiences as an EMT was huge. Working, even just dancing in the like hip hop scene was also helpful, just because you get more exposure to different personalities and different culture, right?
Yeah.
I think I would say that a lot of my colleagues who were very traditional didn't have a lot of experience, life experience, to talk to just people, right?
Right.
Albuquerque is one of those towns where there's so much culture, so many different races, right? You got Vietnamese people, African Americans, Filipino, Hispanic, and if you don't have enough experience, it's hard to connect, right?
Yeah.
Having grown up and having had all these experiences, it has helped me kind of realize that there is such cultural diversity, and having cultural sensitivity was big. Like, for instance, when I was working on Albuquerque ambulance, in the ambulance, I had a patient. One of my patients was a retired vet, and he gets into the ambulance. He's super sick. I'm getting a report, and I jump in the back of the ambulance. I'm helping him out, and I'm like getting him all connected to the monitors and stuff. And we hadn't spoken a word yet. He has a breathing mask on because it's a respiratory call. So he pulls this mask down, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm wondering what he's gonna say. He looks at me and goes, "I killed people like you in Vietnam."
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like taken back.
Wow.
And I'm like, huh. I didn't want to react to that, right?
Yeah.
Because this guy was really sick. So I didn't say anything. I just said, you should put your, well, I didn't say anything at that moment, but I kind of motioned like, put your mask back on.
Yeah.
And I just started collecting more vital signs. And I sat down, I made sure he was buckled up. And he didn't say anything after that. He just knew that I was taken back, right? So I sat down in the captain's chair, which is behind him. And then I just see his vital signs just deteriorate, right? And I was just like, okay, this guy's sick. All right, let's just focus on getting him better. And then I told my partner who's driving, I was like, we should bump up to code 3 and then get there sooner. So I start doing like the usual stuff. I getting him some meds. I start an IV, get him all these things because he sounds horrible and he's kind of like going down the hole.
Mm-hmm.
So like 5 to 10 minutes into treatment, he goes from like super wheezy, like really bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's really ill appearing. And then I treat him, then I reassess him. He's much improved. He's not working as hard. He just feels his vital signs are like 100% better after like only 10 minutes of treatment. I was like, cool. All right, let's just, this interaction's almost over. In my mind, I'm like, this interaction's almost over. Let's just get him out of the bus and move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sitting there. Now I'm sitting like right next to him charting. He goes to pull his mask down again. And I was like, okay, now what does he have to say?
Yeah.
We pull into the VA and he like takes a deep breath and he's much more comfortable and he's just like, I'm sorry.
Mm.
And that's all. And then in that moment I was like, all right, that's all I needed. That was just validation in that what I'm doing is much more meaningful than these cultural imbalances that are not even that are creating false boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the types of experiences that have definitely resonated with me and have allowed me to maintain composure in what I do now as an ER doctor.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I just got to focus on the medicine. And are all my interactions like that still? Absolutely not. I've had definitely some really bad outcomes where we're just like, well, that guy's never going to like me because of previous experiences, whatever.
Yeah.
But just having that one allows me to have the confidence to just treat and do what I can in my professional role as a provider, as a doctor, to do my best and not allow some of these cultural differences compromise my care.
Yeah. That's super impactful. Wow.
Yeah.
Great stories from you, man. So we'll jump into life and passions. How do you and your wife keep dancing a part of your lives now?
Oh man. Yeah. So you probably already know this, but while I was in residency, my wife was all into social media. That helped kind of keep her balanced because she was at home with the kiddos.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was on the other end of the spectrum. I don't even have a Facebook, an Instagram, or any of that. I'm just like disconnected from the social media space. But she created a TikTok and she was just uploading. And then one of them just like blew up. And I had no clue what TikTok was. But she was like, excuse me. And she was like, honey, we're going viral. I was like, I don't know what that means. But baby needs something. Baby's crying right now. Let's focus on that, right? So I finally get into it. And I was like, okay, cool. That's cool. We're blowing up. That's cool. And she was like, we're going big on this platform. So we wound up blowing up on TikTok. And it was funny because I was in residency, and while I was at work, people were like, "Hey, you're that TikTok doc." I was like,
"Oh wow!"
I don't know what that means, because I didn't even have it on my phone.
Yeah,
it was just all on Felicia's phone. She was just uploading. So because of that, Felicia and I were like, let's just do some stuff that's fun for us.
Yeah.
Let's do some stuff that's funny. Let's do some stuff with our kiddos. Let's dance on there. And that was one of the big things that allowed us to come out of hibernation, I guess.
Yeah.
And we would just start dancing for this app because we were like, this is so fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything super strenuous because like going from where we were like dancing like nonstop to like just some TikTok dances that were like fun, not super hard to pick up. We'd get it in I don't know, after a few tries, and then we just post every day, and we got into that. And I think that was definitely an avenue for us to like just keep going.
That's
and
cool.
We just did that.
It's cool.
And because of that, our account, it just kept growing, just through like some posts that we had about dances, who we were, and we're like, man, let's just keep doing it. And because of that, we were like, we really got back into dance. And then because we got back into dance, our kids were growing up and they're like, we want to do that too. And we're like, well, let's teach you guys some dances.
That's awesome.
And then so we started teaching them, and then now our kids are all into dancing. Not so much just TikTok, thankfully. They were just like, they're like, we want to learn this dance. My daughter's like, I want you to teach me how to wave. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So awesome.
That's
it was a
cool.
cool little avenue to get back into dancing and still stay in tune,
Yeah. Awesome, man. So as the dad of 2 daughters, what do you hope they take away from your journey?
Oh man. As a dad in general, I can only hope that they take anything and everything. I was watching this thing on, I forgot what platform it was, but it was like the CEO of NVIDIA, which is like this huge AI company, right? And he was talking to this class at Stanford. His name is the CEO's name is Jensen Huang, and he was like, what I wish I could impart on you is struggle, and that's something that's not teachable.
Okay.
Right? And I think that's not so much the lesson that I want my kids to take away from me, but that struggle is there.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad experienced it, and know that if you make the wrong decision or don't have the right things in mind, struggle's always going to be there. Like, it's ready to come get you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to impart the fear, right? But more so the awareness, right? And I think that's one of the things that I didn't think about as a kid. I think it just came, and not realizing like, okay, struggle's there and it's always going to be there, but not realizing like it doesn't have to be, right? And it's hard to, because you always want the best thing for your kids, right?
Right.
You're like, I want to give my kids everything I didn't have, right? But sometimes it's hard to give them just enough, right? And I think parents these days are always talking about like, man, these kids don't know what they have, right? So hopefully it's being able to give them the idea like, you need to work hard, you need to stay focused. Don't think that although you have been raised in relatively comfortable place, struggle's there. So try to stay focused. And I think that's what I want to impart in them. Just like, no struggles there. Just stay focused, work hard, be diligent. Hopefully they can get the same takeaway that I got from my parents. Like, go to work, stay focused, be diligent.
Yeah.
And know that there's a reason for that. Like, I know now, like my parents, like they had to go to work because they were struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for kids these days to appreciate that. A lot of kids are like, well, can I just become an influencer and not go to work? Can I just go viral and just retire off that? Can I just buy this altcoin in crypto?
Yeah.
Just bet on Dogecoin,
Yeah, it's different now, for sure.
Super different, yeah.
No, that's good. I think kids, knowingly, they see a lot that we do, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't even realize what they're seeing. But in the big scope of things, yes, it's important to teach those lessons, and a struggle is a big one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I exactly what you said. Like the same thing. Like I want to give my kids everything. I want, but at the same time, I don't want them to become, ungrateful of things or spoiled in a sense, right? Like
Exactly.
you want to. So yeah, I totally get you on that one.
Yeah. Gosh, what was I'm trying to think, because it wasn't. He didn't say struggle. He was like, I want to teach you. Because Jensen Huang wasn't. It wasn't exactly that, but it was along those lines. He's like, I want you guys to experience struggle, or, gosh, what's the word? Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to spend too much time on that.
Okay. So you and your family love Marvel, Dragon Ball. You mentioned snowboarding. So
Yeah.
do you see parallels between those passions and your professional journey?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. Well, I would say yeah. It's hard because like the interests are so wide, right? I'm thankful enough to share a lot of interests with my daughters. They're very like broad in their interests. Like you had mentioned, they like Dragon Ball Z. They like all these Marvel movies. They love going with dad to go snowboarding. They're thankfully still open minded.
Yeah.
In terms of being helpful in the professional sense, I think as an emergency medicine doctor, we're classified as the jack of all trades, right? And I think being able to pivot in various interests is a must as an ER doctor. Watching like Marvel movies, all these superhero movies, watching Dragon Ball Z, you have this like idea that's set in as a child, like you gotta train, you gotta defeat the bad guy, you gotta help help those in need. And I think those kinds of ideas are the things that are underlying the motive as an ER doctor, right?
Okay.
You gotta train, you gotta study, right? You gotta help those in need, you gotta like fix the sick people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to pivot on various categories of medicine, right? Like in the emergency department, you have to be able to take on any emergency that walks into that department, whether it's like a heart attack, a stroke, someone got ran over. You're not like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this. You need to be able to figure it out. If someone's crashing in front of you, you're not calling a colleague. You're there.
Mm-hmm.
At one of the facilities that I work at, like I'm the only doctor there, so I need to be able to figure out all these things while still managing these less acute patients,
Gotcha.
So I think in the sense of variety, that's how it helps me professionally, and just being motivated to get better, to train, and that has helped me be more proficient as an ER doctor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good way to put it. What does a perfect family vacation look like for you?
Oh man. Perfect family vacation. I don't know if we've had one yet. We've had a lot of awesome like family vacations, but I think the perfect one that we're still thinking and kind of planning for, because it kind of blends some of the it blends Felicia's like perfect and the girls' ideal vacation and my ideal vacation, because my ideal vacation is just like sitting on a beach, and just being comfortable,
Okay.
right, and just relaxing, right, and just watching the waves, and then my wife, and it's not just my wife, I like it too. She's a big Disney fan. She's like, let's go to Disneyland, just kids love it. Like they love riding the rides, and I think the perfect vacation would probably be a blend of the two. So
Okay.
we're still talking about that. There's like this Disney resort in Hawaii,
Okay.
and I'm thinking like that would probably the perfect vacation for us, because the kids will have like that whole Disney thing. Felicia loves Disney; she's all about it. And then I can get to hang out in Hawaii.
Gotcha.
We're actually planning for something like that next year, so hopefully that ends up being the perfect vacation. But in the big picture of things, just being able to spend time with the family and not having to worry about the stressors of work, the stressors of the community, and then just being able to focus in on us outside of where we're at on a day-to-day basis. That's why I like being on a beach, because it's like, it's definitely different from where we are right now, right? Like living in New Mexico.
Yeah.
So if I think that's more so the focus for me in terms of a perfect vacation. It's just taking my family and being able to spend quality time in a place that's completely different.
Okay. That's wonderful. So we've reached the last category, last 3 questions here. So this is a reflection and advice. If you could go back and talk to the version of yourself who had just failed out of college, what would you tell him?
Oh man, I've talked to some of my mentees about that same question,
Okay.
and I don't know if this is universal or if it could be applicable to everybody, but I always tell people, from my experience, I would say, if I could go back to myself, and I think I may have alluded to this earlier, if you're not ready for any kind of particular venture, particularly college, stop for just a moment and think, like, what is it that I want to do? And make sure that you at least give yourself the chance and the opportunity to figure that out before you blindly take the next step. And I don't know if everyone would agree with this, because I got the advice myself when I was in that time, where people would say, you'll never regret going to school, just keep going. But if I could just tell myself, I would have been like, no, just stop, because your mindset's not there, and you're just racking up D's, F's, C's, and it's not helping you in any way. Stop.
Okay.
Find yourself, figure out your goal, figure out what it is you want to do, and then once you figure that out, dump all your energy in it. It's hard to dump all your energy and effort in something you don't believe in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's like that classic case where the dad wants you to be something and you don't want to do it, so you kind of like are subpar in all your efforts.
Right.
So if you're better off giving something 100% and reaching some sort of reasonable goal, versus like half-assing something and then getting to whatever social standard there is, because you're only gonna sell yourself short.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Yeah. Wasting energy, time, resources, things like that.
Exactly, man.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good advice. What's a lesson from your unconventional journey that you think others can apply when they feel quote unquote stuck?
Oh, that's a good question. So in my unconventional journey, I worked a lot of different jobs and I met a lot of people. And I think the big thing that was helpful in that regard was I gave everything a try. I worked at a call center. I worked at 3 different restaurants. I worked in all these retail places. And I thought to myself, I'll just give that a try.
Yeah.
I'll just give it a try. If I said no to the guy who asked me if I wanted to work at the nightclub, I would have never met my wife. If I said no to the guy, if it didn't work at the bank, right, or gave it and worked my way up in that industry, I would have never met the guy who hired me at Albuquerque Ambulance, right?
Right.
If I told my sister, man, you're crazy, I would have never become a doctor.
Right.
I think the big thing is keeping an open mind. If you feel stuck, step out of your comfort zone, try something else. Now, does that mean like go ham and pick up like 3 different hobbies and try everything. Like, no, try it, give it a taste, see how you do, but give it a good effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then see where you go and see how you like it. I think a lot of people get stuck because of the fear of not having a safety net.
Okay.
Like, oh man, if I jump ship, what if I lose everything? And if I had told myself that from the beginning, I would have never been where I am now. Like I had mentioned, I would have been stuck probably working at Pizza Hut, delivering pizzas, or who knows.
Okay. Good words of advice. Last but not least, finally, what's next for you, both in medicine and in life?
Oh man. In medicine, the medicine aspect of things is, I think, something that's always evolving. I think what's next for me is probably going to be, and this is going to be way later in the future, I want to be able to get into a role where I'm primarily like a teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, like teach medicine, and then hopefully impart the very interesting and like what I feel is a magical part of medicine, rather than just like this very algorithmic move to healthcare and medicine. So one day, after I've gained enough experience, do that. And personally, I eventually want to be able to get to the point where I'm focused on just spending more of my life on that ideal vacation.
Okay.
I'm just more hours of the day, or more days of the week, and more months out of the year where I'm separated from the day-to-day deal and just spending time with my family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
All right,
Nothing
man.
crazy. Yeah. Just keeping it simple.
Very humble. Yes. All right. Well, that was my last question. Those were great answers. Very knowledgeable. You're a very wise young man.
Oh, thanks, man.
This is a great opportunity, but now I'm going to open it up to you on doing any shout outs, any plugs that you have, or if we didn't talk about or mention anything that you want to, it's open mic for you.
Yeah, shout out to my family, my wife Felicia. She's, like I said, the rock of the family. She's definitely helped me in getting to where I'm at. Shout out to my sister up above, who I had mentioned earlier. She's no longer with us, but she definitely helped with my motivation to get to where I'm at. Some big things I would say is for individuals, especially those who think that becoming a doctor is this just crazy thing, this unreachable goal. It's not. It's a matter of just diving into it and looking at, like, okay, so what are the steps to get there, and just jumping into it. At the time, I think the most daunting thing was time for me. I was already 25, so I had to do 4 years of undergrad. I had to do 4 years of medical school, 3 to 5 years of residency. I was like, man, that's like 11 to 13 years of training.
Yeah.
Man, I just wanted to do like an EMT basic class in 6 months and be done.
Yeah.
And not realizing, like, time will fly by.
Yeah.
Time will go by no matter what. Don't let time be the factor in keeping you, because there will be a point in your life where you look back and say, if I had started 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I'd have been done.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I have time,
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I always try to impart in people who are trying to make decisions, because they're always like, I don't have time. Like, nobody has time, and nobody is guaranteed time.
Right.
All you can do is just invest the best you can, and don't let that be the barrier to your success.
Okay. Wise words, man. Very wise words. Last but not least, I know you mentioned you don't have any social media, but if you want to throw your family's TikTok page out there, or somewhere where they can reach or follow you or any one way or another.
Yeah. So the family one that on TikTok is the Pagador family, or I guess you could say, is it at the Pagador family on TikTok? And that's kind of our TikTok page, and you'll just kind of see us throw up some fun stuff. It's just, we do some silly things like leaving the kids at grandma's, and just some of our TikTok dances and stuff. I don't have a social media, but my wife, she's Felicia Pagador. She has an Instagram. A lot of the similar things that are on our TikTok.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and throw those the tags on the description of the video when the time comes. And well, that's it. So you guys have heard it from the man himself. Again, very wise words. I am grateful for you coming onto the show today. I can't thank you enough, man, and I'm sure the audience will appreciate all the words that you gave here today. So until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Small Talk on the Mats, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.